Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to the Glowing Sea once again, where today we're going to work on a Brahmin pen and some bathroom facilities. So as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button. Let's get stuck in. So a bit of a two-parter today. Neither of these builds are particularly big or complicated, but both flesh out the sort of living nature of the settlement when we eventually get there. So I've started off just using green pieces on this. I actually mix it up later on. I changed it off camera rather. It was a little too uniform. It didn't really suit the style of the build. So because we're on the slope here, it's a bit difficult to line things up. And this tree's not helping much either. So we're going to kind of get a line from the tree, but in typical Fallout fashion, it doesn't work quite as planned. It's just sort of creeping further and further away there. I have no idea why, but it was. So I nudged it back across and it worked reasonably well. But we'll start here at the bottom, just so that the bottom of the wall is not floating. Because if we start at the top, obviously it's going to go straight along as we snap and just float up in the air, stick out, look stupid, etc, etc. So we'll work along, and look at that. Perfect fit. I actually make my mind up which piece I want to use. There we go. Couldn't have done it better with a ruler. Did run into a couple of minor complications on this one. This being one of them. This sort of round the corner piece here doesn't want to snap in, presumably because it's sunk too far into the ground. So we're going to use angled roof pieces, because the flat ones just don't look all that good, basically. Need the top of the wall a little bit higher so you can get under the front edge. Unfortunately, this one's just not going in. The other one went in, but it was the wrong way around. I think because the corner of the tower's sticking out there and just getting in the way. And the other issue, the snapping point on these roofs, which I hadn't actually realised, is along the bottom edge and apparently along the sides as well. So, put a lower wall in front so we get this first one in. There we go. And after that, the rest will just snap straight onto the side. Just like that. Mix the textures up a bit and take advantage of the roofs with the beams on them. So those are far and away cooler and actually look much more supported. So get rid of this wall because I don't actually want that one. It was my first effort to get the roofs to snap in, but that did not work either. Now go piece in, get the edges tidied up a little bit, or untied up, depending on how you want to look at it. And I was really pleased with how easy this turned out to be. Because these barn pieces are pretty soft on the edges, it just group selects in quite nicely. And it was dead easy to line up, really. Just follow that top edge, especially having the corner on it, which makes it a lot easier to see whether or not it's lining up all the way around. And it completes the look a little more. There we go. Look at that. Seamless. A couple of supports in the front, partially so the roof looks like it's not going to fall down, partly so that it sort of divides up the front edge a little bit. It'll also give us markers to put stalls in a moment. And no help required for these, because once again they're nice and soft. Just a case of making sure you can see the top and the bottom of the posts, and then in they go, no problem. Just the menu getting in the way a little bit there. But we manage. So, going to use the half walls for the stalls. Unfortunately, my original plan was to make them a little more interesting, but it didn't really work. Largely because you can't just straight group select these in. The collisions are a little too tough on these. However, rug glitch, and in they go, no problem. Unfortunately, one problem I did have is I wanted them initially to be a little higher up. However, when I take the rugs away, they snap back down to the sort of contact point with the ground, where the line of the ground sits on them like that. When you initially set them down, there you go, see what I mean. which actually works out quite well, but wasn't what I originally had in mind. Something to bear in mind if you do need to take the rugs away, which in this particular case I did. So I'll repeat the procedure again, and once more after this as well. Just a case of lining them up with the edges of the wall pieces and with the posts as well, which is mildly awkward but not really a problem. What is slightly more complicated is putting the pen out front. Because obviously we're on a slope, we have the floating issue again, or if I start from the bottom and work upwards, the fence just becomes really, really low. It looks daft from that angle as well. So it's a case of group selecting them in piece by piece, which is a bit fiddly if not particularly problematic. Just a bit of trial and error to make sure everything connects. One useful way of doing it, particularly with these pieces, is just this. Make sure you see the green end of the fence clipping through the post and then line it up using that. And if you could look along the length, it's much easier as well. Although probably easier if I had the pillar on the inside. Unfortunately, the other disadvantage to doing it this way is things don't quite match up. So we've got a small gap here. So tried a few options on this, but the best one seems to just be take a half wall, sink it into the ground, use it to plug the gap. And there we go, dead easy. So, I've been sort of vaguely implying for a while, and I've had in the back of my mind to do this, but I wanted to wait till I completed this build or this section of the build rather, to do it. How on earth are they going to drag all this stuff back to build with? Well, this is my plan. I'm going to find a car chassis with wheels still attached to it and turn it into a kind of trailer. So we can stick some plywood down, just make sure it sits as flush with the frame as we can possibly get it. Just about nudges through the gap though, which is cool. A couple more bits on the side, and they can take those off and reattach them as they want. And then they can attach it to Brahmin with ropes, and they've got a trailer to pull. She'll do the job until they can get their truck going, and then even then I suppose I might want to use it as a trailer then as well. Just going to lift it up and make sure it's looking right. Yeah, nice and flat right along its length, that's what we want. We'll put another board in there quickly just to extend the base a little bit. Unfortunately it starts to head upwards a little bit there, so out of room. And there we go. Now it's just a case of group selecting it in where I want it. However, unfortunately I've moved it a little too close to the wall, so I have to pull it apart, move it outside and start again. So you don't get to see that bit. So, move on to the shower and bathroom facilities. I did think for a moment that maybe ghouls wouldn't bother showering, because no amount of showering is going to hide the fact that they're basically rotting corpses. But it completed out the build a little more, and I didn't want to do just simple outhouses with nothing fancy to them, because whilst they look fine, it's not very interesting, so we'll do something a bit cooler. So I'm going to place them on this floor here. Use those half walls just as a divider. And apparently these still snap in just fine, which is helpful. So this side is going to be the shower block. Shower, bathroom, that sort of thing. So stick a roof over there. A couple of supports in. Bit easy. One too many, that looks rubbish. There we go. So I'm going to put these outhouses up on the top here. You won't be able to see the floor underneath it, so we'll just have to go with some headcanon that there's a gap underneath there. For reasons you'll see in just a moment. They were quite happy to sit on the floor really, which I was pleasantly surprised about. And it was just a case of nudging them into place and lining them up with the line on at the middle of the what they call warehouse pieces. Warehouse walls, just to make sure they're in a fairly central and even position. Now we'll group select the whole thing into place, because it's much easier than trying to build it here. So the idea here being to make sure there's enough room to get around the side on the left, and it will sit neatly in place as well. Preferably not take up too much room as we're doing that. There we go. The slightly raised floor, it leaves runoff for water and what have you as well for the shower side. So, going to use a conduit and the pillar here to get the reach, and just group select a bath underneath each of these outhouses. Theory being everything that falls through has something to land in, and then they can just pull them out, empty them wherever they would, presumably with all the rest of the toxic waste. And that makes the thing much more hygienic, although somewhat grim to empty, I should imagine. Not a job I'd want. Conveniently, I was slightly worried that the conduit wasn't going to come back out, but dead easy as it turned out. Which is very convenient for putting these in. So, half walls just to tidy it up a bit, but I decided to lift them up a little bit and use them as railings at the same time. Largely because using the same old ones all the time is a little boring. Up a little. There we go. Just redo that first one. There we are. So at this stage, I think all I really have to do left... Let's reorder that sentence, shall we? All I really have left to do is a little bit of decoration, furnish the inside of the house, and then do the tour. Unless I think of something in the next week that I really want to add, but I think we're pretty much close to completion at this stage. Which is very, very cool. Just mark out where I want the steps to go. You see there's room under there to get the bathtubs out. Use the same technique we used in the middle to close off the back and provide a bit of support for it. Snap them together, group select, jobs are good, nice and easy. Any awkward parts are lining the thing up, which actually wasn't too bad for this one. Just drop it down a little bit, there we go. Same thing over here. Much easier if you can look along the length of the thing. There we go. Neat and tidy. I'll stop being fussy. Just tidy up underneath the stairs using a couple of retextured railings. These were a bit fussy to get in, but they went okay. I did want to use a half wall on this side, which is the shower side here, but not quite enough room there. So you'd either hit the wall that's underneath or it hit the truck. So standard technique for stairs, but this time, because there's going to be a little bit of a pathing issue, which is actually not really going to be an issue at all, it's just a bathroom, but I wanted to make it look like you could get around the corner a bit more easily, so I'm going to extend the steps out a little bit using the shack floor there. The other side is just a standard group selected underneath, so I've done it that many times lately, you didn't really need to see it again. Just slap some boards down and we'll tidy it all up. Did think about the half walls again, because I do like the tapered edge, but they're a little too big, I think. Maybe pretty much the same size, but would have been awkward. You leave that gap open to the elements, as it's space they're going to be dragging the baths out of. There's actually just about enough room, I did check, for the bath to fit through, so we'll be able to get them out there. And we'll just put some dividers in here. Did think about using that half wall, but I wanted them to be able to get round it. There's also like the idea that if two people were using the space at the same time, they could actually kind of talk to each other. Not entirely sure why, but there we go. And would have had to build a second staircase around the back if I'd just used that half wall. So, decoration and tour. A couple of Brahmin added by USO now, so it's much, much easier just to slap those down rather than faff around with the cages. I did have 3 in here, but the third one just had a habit of teleporting outside the fence. Possibly because the space is a bit confined. A little bit of water in a bathtub there for them to drink from. I can't actually remember where the feed troughs are. the bathtub ones specifically. The nuke oiled ones I didn't have a problem with. They're in the dry rock gulch section. Oh, got some bales of hay or razor grain, and is that one floating? Bloody hell it is, isn't it? Damn it. I'll have to fix that. Well, there we go. A couple of Brahmin in a pen. Still a bit peeved about that third one that didn't want to play ball. They don't move around too much, which is good. It's supposed to behave much the same way as normal Brahmin, but they're slightly less inclined towards using the feed troughs at the moment, so we'll make do for now. There's our little trailer. Stuck a cinder block underneath there just to make sure it doesn't look like it's floating too as absurdly. Now we'll zip around the side of the garage and have a look at this bathroom block, shower block thing. Really need to come up with a name for that quite quickly. So, toilets on the front. Use the metal railing from the concrete tab there just to break up the wooden textures a little bit, make things a little more interesting. Got some Boston Bugles for wiping with. And reading, I suppose, if you're really bored. You see the bathtubs underneath there to catch everything. Nice and simple. Job's a good one. That curtain's been added by USO quite recently. There's a few of them. But that one was most cooperative, which is why I chose that one. Still no showers over the baths, but chemical shower will have to do. And there we have it. So with any luck, we'll be on to the tour next time. Well, thank you very much for watching, as always. Do hope you enjoyed. If you did, I'm sure you know what to do by now. Do check out some of my other content as well if you get time. And if you'd like to keep up with everything on the channel, social media links down in the description. And I will speak to you all very, very soon.